HowExpert! Top 10 Dungeons and Dragons Tips. HowExpert publishes quick how-to guides on all topics from A to Z by everyday experts. Visit HowExpert.com to learn more. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more HowExpert Top 10 videos in the future. Moving on, let's talk about the HowExpert Top 10 Dungeons and Dragons Tips. Keep it simple. Leaping into the vast worlds of D&D can be overwhelming, to say the least. The amount of official content is enough to make your head spin, and that isn't even including fan-made homebrew rules, races, worlds, classes, items, and so much more. Going into your first campaign, it may be tempting to make a complex spellcaster or multi-class right off the bat. This is fun for sure, but it's easy for this to backfire and overwhelm you, possibly making you lose interest in the game as a whole. Pick something simple to start. The fighter class, for example, is versatile yet easy to grasp, making it perfect for new players who still want to craft a unique character. If you're set on a caster class, try sticking to a theme like all fire or all ice. A good healing class to start is the good old-fashioned cleric. Just remember to stay true to your roots, and don't overcomplicate things too early on. Number 9. Don't fear inspiration. While crafting your first character, you may find yourself making something that seems familiar to you. Only when watching your favorite fantasy series or reading your favorite manga may you realize that you've made a character that feels very close to an existing one. This might feel wrong. You may want to erase your progress and start all over again. The pressure to create something wholly original is easy to succumb to in D&D. But remember that inspiration is okay. Encouraged, in fact. Playing a trope you're familiar with can help make the game that much more fun for you. Even veteran players borrow and take inspiration from other work. In the process of using what you know, you'll find that your character takes on their own direction in the story. Number 8. Flaws can be fun. After deciding on your class and narrowing down abilities and appearances, you get to develop your player character's personality, their past, their ideals, and dreams, the things that make them who they are. A trap a lot of new players can fall into is making their character too perfect. They are the perfect good, always making the right choices. But characters, like people, are not interesting just because of their competencies. People are more interesting because of their imperfections. If you roll up a character who has low charisma, it's okay to lead them into fumbling a social encounter instead of avoiding it entirely. Some of the most fun and memorable moments in a campaign can stem from a character's flaws and quirks. Remember not to pressure yourself into making the perfect choices, and you'll have a lot more fun at the table. Number 7. Trust your DM. Along with your other party members, the other person you'll be interacting with the most is the GM or DM, the Game Master or Dungeon Master. This person is essentially the narrator of your party's tale. They run the game's world or build it themselves. They craft the encounters, run the NPCs, and so much more that goes into your party's story. As someone who has a lot of power over how the story goes for your character, it can be easy to be almost frightened of them and what they might do to the party. To preface this, you should still trust your DM at least a little bit. But in general, though, it's the DM's job to mess with your head and emotions to a certain degree. The story becomes stale without some fear and risk involved. There's a very real chance your character could die in combat. But without that risk, there's no real danger to the world you're trying to save. A big part of trusting your DM is communicating with them. Voice your concerns with their rulings, if you have them. And if you have any subjects that are sensitive for you, make sure you tell them. You'd be surprised what can come up in an RPG, especially with villains. So, requesting a warning beforehand or avoiding a certain subject entirely can help you improve your experience and your DMs. As long as you communicate and trust your DM to lead the story where it needs to go, you'll enjoy the roller coaster ride of a game safely. Number 6. Metagaming and min-maxing are not everything. Once you really get into a campaign, getting a few encounters and skill checks under your belt, you may start to notice a different approach from other players at your table. They're doing a lot more damage than you are, or they blow by skill checks regardless of how low they may roll. You might start looking at your character sheet and wondering what you've done wrong. The truth of the matter is you aren't playing wrong at all. Some of the players just enjoy a thing called metagaming. What this means is that they specifically build a character towards the highest possible stats and use real-world knowledge to inform their character's abilities and stats. This is something that takes a lot of intricate knowledge of the game and isn't something you can just pick up on. You may develop a fondness for this playstyle over time, and that is perfectly fine. But don't feel bad if you aren't doing the most damage, or healing the most, or succeeding every single skill check. Number 5. Don't judge on your first experience. Like going into anything for the first time, jumping into your first D&D campaign can be daunting. There are a lot of factors that go into a successful campaign, after all. The players, the DM and their playstyle, the player characters meshing together, and just meeting consistently are all things to keep in balance. The truth is, one or more of these things often don't work out. You may build your first character and find it isn't a style of play you enjoy, or you may not find a group you like playing with right away. Schedules are hard to coordinate, and the campaign may be cut short early because of it. If your first campaign goes awry, don't let it deter you from trying again. Just like the content in the game is vast and varied, so too are the people who play it. There's a group out there for you, a character for you to create and bring to life that will make a rough first experience worthwhile. Number 4. Take notes. I promise you this is more fun than it sounds, and it's incredibly useful. Once you join a campaign and get a few sessions in, you'll be surprised at how much more story can be packed into such a short amount of time. Most of us aren't lucky enough to have flawless memories, and it can be difficult to try and keep track of all the NPCs, locations, plot development, and so on. Even in ground zero character creation, it can be difficult to remember what your abilities your character has, and how to apply them properly. Taking notes during sessions is key to keeping the information your character knows straight, and learning how to best utilize your player and how they can work better with your teammates. If you want to have those epic, or hilarious, or sometimes both, campaign stories that you read over the internet later, this is key. Number 3, research and questions are good. Even when you take thorough notes, there's still the possibility of getting lost in the sea of information that's at your fingertips. When reading content books like the Player's Handbook, don't be afraid to highlight and sticky tab frequently relevant pages. With the era of the internet we live in, it's easier than ever to find information about character builds, items, and plenty more. Odds are, another player has had the same questions you have. Also, don't worry about bugging the DM after sessions. It's their job to relay rules and interpret things to fit the world you're playing in. It's easy to worry about looking silly, but you must remember that every veteran D&D player was a new player at one point. Other players or DMs love helping others if they get to look smart, and more importantly, it creates another way for you to bond with your party. D&D is a pretty complex game with lots of mechanics, so asking questions is encouraged. Number 2, always remember your party. I've been talking a lot about your character in the last entries, but it's crucial to remember that D&D is a team game. If you're stuck making your character, it's a great idea to see what role you can fill in the party that hasn't been covered, or try to synergize with what's already been created. You can discover a character you didn't expect to play, but come to love. When playing through the campaign, it's also important to communicate with your fellow players and engage your character with theirs. As fun as it may sound to play the lone wolf type, the wanderer who doesn't get close to anybody, it really just isn't any fun for you, and especially not for your party. The most successful parties with the most fun stories to tell are the ones that collaborate. Look at famous campaigns like Critical Role or The Adventure Zone. The moments that are remembered and celebrated aren't the ones where a character strikes out on their own for an entire mission or ignores their party. It's the special moments of chaotic but beautiful teamwork. Taking inspiration from and always interacting with other characters not only builds the bonds of your party, but it also cracks open the world of storytelling in a uniquely beautiful way. You can help foster these moments at your own table too, by remembering to include your party. Number 1. Enjoy yourself. This seems obvious. I mean, D&D is a game after all, but it's surprisingly easy to lose sight of. Depending on the people you're with, D&D can feel pretty high pressure. With your character you've poured hours into, characters you've grown to love, the stakes can start to feel more stressful than fun. But above all else, this is a game for fun. You don't have to prove anything, and giving yourself permission to make some mistakes is crucial for new players. Mistakes are normal, and oftentimes they can lead to unexpectedly hilarious results. It can also be easy to beat yourself up for not making it to a session, or messing up another player's plan. But don't sweat it. A small apology and proper communication going forward can go a long way towards making the whole experience more fun for everyone. Just be careful when you cast that fireball. If you liked our video, be sure to click like and subscribe for more HowExpert Top 10 videos for all topics from A to Z in the future. Also, let us know what other topics you want us to do a HowExpert Top 10 video in the future in the comments below. Thank you, have an amazing day, and take care. HowExpert publishes quick how-to guides on all topics from A to Z by everyday experts. Visit HowExpert.com to learn more.